Help me out here. Tell me what this is. If you know, congratulations, you can skip this video, and on your way out, tell me what this is, because I have no clue. And neither does the person who sent it to me. In fact, this person has been searching for it for 2 years. There's a lot of different things that this thing reminds me of, but I just can't point my finger to anything specific. And it just makes me think about how when we were looking into the Gitas mystery, how people were like, oh, this is a mystery from the 80s. Nothing like this could ever happen again because, we have the internet now. And then here we are with something that has its origins in probably looks like the early 2000s. There's not a lot to go off of, but for this episode of Tales from the Internet, let's take a look at whatever this thing is. Thank you to Helix for sponsoring this video. I've had my Helix mattress and pillows for a few months now. The first time I spoke about Helix, I had mentioned that I had been dealing with some neck pain for a little while, and very quickly after switching to Helix's mattress and pillows, the neck pain almost immediately went away. After a few months of continuing to sleep with Helix, I'm happy to say that the neck pain still hasn't returned. Helix is a premium mattress in a box company that picks a mattress for you based on your preferences. Take the sleep quiz and Helix will figure out what works for you. Personally, I'm a side sleeper who likes a soft mattress, so Helix selected the Sunset for me. After your order, your mattress comes rolled up in a box delivered straight to your door. And after having it for a while now, I can say that it feels just right. And if you're not sure if Helix is right for you, they have a 100 nights of sleep trial. If you don't like it, Helix will pick up the mattress from your home and give you a full refund. And if you do like it, they have a 10-year warranty. Just click the link in my description and go to helixsleep.com/wang. You'll get up to $200 off your mattress and 2 free pillows. Recently, I received an email from someone named Bink regarding a strange cartoon character. Unknown cartoon character stumps Reddit TOMT. Evening. After 2 years, no one has been able to solve this little mystery of a bizarre cartoon cutout. Many people mentioned you in the comments, so I'm reaching out. Does this character look familiar to you? And there were a lot of things that it vaguely reminded me of at first. Right away, to me, this thing is emanating powerful Tim Burton energy. I thought of the shrunken head from Beetlejuice, the general look of characters from Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, or Frankenweenie, but it also reminded me a bit of just a general promotional mascot too. Even though it doesn't specifically look like any of these characters, I thought of the Honeycomb mascot, or those little aliens from the last Halloween movie. And for a moment, I almost started to feel like I might have seen it before, like a Blockbuster video or something used to sell candy or popcorn or something. But I really have no idea, I'm just grasping at straws here. But whatever it is, it definitely has its origin at some old retail store. Let's take a look at the story and how this thing got to where it is. Let's take a trip back in time. A trip to the malls of the 80s and 90s. They looked a lot different back then. Not just aesthetically, but because of all the stores of years gone by. Places like Funcoland, Sam Goody, or here's another one, Tape World. Tape World begins in 1979 as a mall store owned by the Trans World Music Company. As its name would imply, it was a place where you went to buy tapes. Music on cassette, movies on VHS, and as time went on, CDs and DVDs. Tape World was the most successful business under the Trans World Music umbrella, so it very quickly became the company's main focus, a fixture at malls across the United States. But eventually, the name Tape World gets a bit outdated. You get to a point where you go into a Tape World and lo and behold, barely anything they sell there anymore is a tape. It's like if McDonald's called itself Ice Cream Land. Around the same time, you got a store called FYE, For Your Entertainment. Also owned by Trans World Music, now renamed to Trans World Entertainment. It begins in 1993 with a single store in the Trumbull Mall in Connecticut, before very slowly expanding throughout the Northeast. By the time we get to 2001, in addition to the various mall brands that Trans World Entertainment owned, they had also acquired a number of other failing record stores. And at that point, in the early 2000s, they decide they're going to take all of these properties that they own and make them all FYE. And along with such changes comes a lot of reorganization at the ground level. That's where the Tape World monster comes into play. During that period of organization, the FYE that Blink would eventually come to work at acquired the manager from that mall's old Tape World. These old record stores tend to accumulate a lot of stuff from different promotions over the years. And the old manager from Tape World brought some of this stuff over to the new FYE. Most of it was instantly recognizable stuff like Slimer from Ghostbusters, Men in Black, Harry Potter. This cardboard cutout was the only thing that the employees could not identify. And that's basically all we know of the circumstances of how this piece actually got there. So let's take a look at the clues we can find from just viewing the piece itself. One very important thing to note is this character is 13 inches tall, and it was most likely part of a much larger display, possibly containing other characters like this, or maybe even the title of whatever this was from. Bing showed the back of it, and you could see tears where it was ripped off of a larger display. And she provided an example of a Simpsons DVD display so you can get an idea of how the different characters are attached to these kinds of things. Then there's the issue of whether this is claymation or whether this is CG. At first glance, I personally thought this was CG, but I don't think so anymore after seeing what other people on Reddit said and taking a closer look myself. I now believe that this cardboard cutout is a photo of an actual physical creation. The big thing that tipped off a lot of people is the pins in its head, which are very clearly real pins and not a CG rendering. And unfortunately, this being one of the most identifying features of this creature makes it basically impossible to Google anything about it. Because, you know, you Google Pinhead character or anything like that and you just get Hellraiser. And if you remove Hellraiser, it just leads you back to this thread. Another big tell for me is the cheeks. In the cheeks, you can see little imperfections in the surface that make it look as if it was clay that was molded with either fingers or a tool. Especially on its left cheek, where you can see that little dimple in there. And you can see similar work on the eyes, nose, and mouth. So several people were saying this was claymation, I was of the opinion that this was claymation now. But then I saw a comment by a user named Clever Cactus that got me thinking differently. I would say that it is actually not claymation, or at least the picture of this specific figure isn't. Zoom in and look at the clothes he is wearing, specifically the shirt. See how reflective they are? They are painted on, so this figure is likely a solid finished sculpture that has been painted. Basically, this specific figure is rigid and I doubt the characters were ever actually animated, at least not with this character design. And although at first this might seem like a bit of a nitpick, it's actually, in my opinion, a very important clue. A lot of the focus of this search so far has been on animations like Wallace and Gromit or Chicken Run. And it does bear a striking resemblance to how those characters look. But look at something like Wallace's clothes. They have a matte finish, because he's gotta move to animate. If you take something with a painted finish like that and try to move it around, the paint's gonna crack. It's no good for animation. So why would something like this exist then? It would mean that this character, at least this version of the character, was not meant to move. It doesn't necessarily mean that this wasn't a character from an animation, but it does mean that this instance was created specifically for the photo. And in my opinion, being a piece of evidence towards it being an advertisement for a non-animation product. As I suggested earlier in the video, perhaps some kind of advertisement for candy or some kind of snack. That being said though, Bink did contact the current manager of the FYE to ask about this possibility. Over 100 comments, 160 subscribers, no leads on Pinhead, lol. Did Redacted mention if it was a candy display or something? It was from a movie. It was back when every movie had a huge corrugate display. It's possible that they could be wrong about this. I mean, this is the current manager once again and not the old manager who brought the piece over. But on that note, I did see a few interesting possibilities regarding this possibly being from some kind of film. One user, Vislavsla, brought up the possibility of it being a side character from a knockoff film or something. I don't have any answers either yet, but I'm going to be looking a bit more as well. A claymation / stop motion character with a thumbtack crown seems like it would be easy to find because of how specific it is. Also, something about his pants and shoes and shirt give off a clown vibe. Even the tacks kind of resemble a red, white, and blue crown afro wig visually. So weird. The scale would imply small characters or toys. The aesthetic is circus. Literally cannot think of anything like this. Being small and part of a larger display, it's safe to say it was a peripheral, secondary if not background character. But the style is so specific it shouldn't be hard to find the movie or belongs to. It's very Tim Burton inspired, but it looks like actual clay and not CGI. The character isn't smooth, you can almost see counting tool marks on him. My guess is it was some sort of knockoff film aimed at kids mean to look like Bryton, so maybe one that was promoted in the wake of Coraline or that little wave of resurgent stop-motion films had. On looks alone, I would have guessed it was just from an animated short, as there were a ton of those and they could be weird and foreign and offbeat, but those seldom have DVD releases, unless it was part of an anthology, which seems like a stretch. Similarly, Paulo still floated the possibility of it being an employee's personal project. Bink responded that she'd considered the possibility of it being some kind of local or indie creation, but to her it seemed unlikely knowing the manager and the other pieces they chose to bring. Rexel Durbin brought up the possibility of it being foreign, and to me, the look of it definitely has some kind of European energy. But as Bing pointed out, it would be odd for something like that to have a display in a mainstream US retail store. Brillo Coolidge brought up a few other possibilities. Okay, so I don't have any news to give you, but this thing has taken up my entire brain since I saw it this morning, so I want to at least offer my finds. I've looked up most of the major claymation films, and I feel relatively confident this isn't some forgotten character in one of the classics. The found art look, the push pins, the beads for eyes, suggests a cheap budget, though that might be a design choice. He's not from Men in Black, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was practical effects in a live action movie. Stop motion and non-stop motion movies tended to be cheap looking in this way. This isn't progress, but I skimmed over a DVD display in the title, my bad at first. There were a ton of music videos from this era that used stop motion, so I looked just in case. Reasonably certain that's a dead end. Do you yourself remember it being from a feature-length film, or is that word of mouth? Hoping to eliminate it being from a short film compilation or something even weirder. Also, I sent this to my friend group because I know people who are even bigger animation nerds than me. Nobody recognized them. This thing is so cursed. The potential of it being something that was in a live action movie is an interesting one to me, and one that I feel like hasn't been explored as much. But still, at this point, enough eyes have been on this that if it isn't something like that, it would have to be something more obscure. And that being said, there is a laundry list of specific things that have been ruled out. Confirmed not. Movies: Men in Black, Box Trolls, Coraline, Nightmare Before Christmas, Spy Kids, Wallace and Gromit, Monkey Bone, Mary and Max, Toys in the Attic, Paranorman. Shows: Bump in the Night, Crashbox, Kablam. Video games: Psychonauts, Neverhood, Armicog, Skull Monkeys, Oddworld, Clay Fighter. Music: Primus. Brands: Blue Tack, Staples. So clearly we don't really have that much to work on, so how do we go about finding this thing? Bink has tried a few of the obvious ways, like reverse image searches, various configurations of Google searches. I've tried a few different things, and a few people in the thread have tried a few things, but nothing has really turned up anything. The easiest thing would be if someone watching this just happens to recognize it and remember where it's from. I mean, I'm sure at least some of you worked at these kinds of retail stores at this period in time, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone out there recognizes it. But there are a few other ways to go about it that I saw that might actually work. In particular, something that caught my interest was footage of old stores from this time period. One Redditor, Abe Sedair, found a video that was actually taken by someone else who wound up in the thread. Environmental Cover 14, who worked at a Suncoast Video in 2001. One day at work, he just happened to shoot a bunch of video and eventually uploaded it to YouTube. Abe Sedair came across the video and was hoping to find the Tape World monster perhaps lurking in the background somewhere. Nothing was found in that video, but I think this might be the best method of having something turn up. Knowing that the Tape World monster was most likely a small piece that was pulled off a larger display, if we could see either a photo or a video containing the full display, it will probably give us the title. And in that case, we don't really need to limit the search to just FYE or Tape World. Because if these stores receive this promotional material, it's very likely that all of the other retail stores in this world received it as well. So that leaves open a lot of other possibilities, stuff like Sam Goody, Tower Records, Suncoast Video, Circuit City. Although granted, there is the possibility that this was for a promotion relegated entirely to Tape World. You know, maybe one month Tape World just had a sale and there was a promotion with all these goofy characters in it. But at this point in the search, there's no reason to rule out any of these stores. What do I think personally? I mean, obviously it's too early to rule anything out, so, you know, don't allow my opinion to cause you to not search certain avenues. But even though the manager insists that this is from a movie, my gut is telling me that this is a promotion from some kind of product. I'm just really stuck on the candy thing just because I very quickly went to candy in my brain, and it's not based on any evidence that we have because we really don't have that much evidence. I'm just getting a candy vibe from it. And another possibility to consider is that if this is from a film, there's a chance that it's from something that had promotional materials released but didn't actually come out. As you've seen in some of my past videos, that is a thing that occasionally happens. But honestly though, we're early on in this search, and I have a good feeling that someone watching this video will know something about this character. And obviously, if you do, let me know. But anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, take a look at my videos on the Gitas mystery, a mystery that was actually solved. I'm out.